It's good to have you. Welcome back. It's been a long time,
so
Doc.
much. I'm glad to be back. Mindful Mondays
Yeah.
were always those Mondays
Yeah.
that, would just have me mindful
Mindful,
of
very important.
myself, environment, and everything around. So the
Yeah.
conversations were really something I was looking forward to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Season 2. How many? 4 months later.
Right?
Like since December, we haven't. It's like there's a lot of
4
conversation.
months later, true.
Yeah,
true,
that has
true.
happened, building
Yeah.
up to this. So, would you like to talk about a bit about where we've come from? Season 1. Any highlights? What do you remember?
I remember, well, we started back then. I was still in Asia.
Yeah.
We started with imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
I think that was the icebreaker of Mindful Mondays.
Yeah.
So we talked about imposter syndrome. We then went into childhood trauma.
Yeah.
Yes, we looked at that. And I think we looked at, was it emotions?
I think we did touch
We
on
did.
emotions.
Yes.
And then we decided because it was such a big topic, we should come back to it
yes,
and then
I
like break
remember.
it down.
We also looked at learned helplessness.
Yes, that was a big
And
one.
the quarter life crisis.
And quarter life
Yes.
crisis. So there was a lot of emotions that we spoke about
Yeah.
in those episodes,
Yeah.
and we're like, we should come back
We
and
should
just
come back.
break down
Yeah,
what
emotions.
emotions are
Yeah.
and how to deal with them.
Yeah.
And so that's why we're here tonight.
Great.
Are you ready for us?
Ready? Looking forward to this
As ready as one
conversation.
can be, I suppose. Okay, so let's just delve right into it.
Sure.
From a professional perspective,
Yes.
what are emotions?
Good question. So, most times we feel a lot of things, right?
Right.
But then we oftentimes don't get to know exactly what it is that we are feeling. So emotions are basically the states, or rather the internal states that are usually expressed by an external stimuli, right? So for example, if we say the emotion of let's say happiness, oftentimes it's because of that external stimuli
Right.
that we now get to have this state, this internal state expressed by this external stimuli. Yeah, so emotions in themselves, I usually say they are transient. They do not necessarily speak to your self-concept or your worth as a person. They are simply signaling what is happening inside of you. Yeah, so they are basically those internal states, if I'm to call them.
Like indicators.
Indicators, yes.
yeah.
Bringing out the message of what is happening in our environment. Yeah.
I'm coming back to that. I like that. So you said in the beginning, just now, about we feel a lot of things.
Yeah.
How do we distinguish feelings and emotions? I know we use them constantly,
Interchangeably,
synonymously.
yeah.
And when I speak about emotions, am I also speaking about feelings? What's the difference? I'll give you an example, right?
Sure.
When like two people are about to court, they usually say, I have feelings for that person.
Exactly.
Right? But when
Yeah.
they're hurting, they'll say, I'm emotional.
Yeah.
So I'm always wondering, is there a difference between feelings and emotions?
Yeah, that's a good question. So if you remember my explanation of emotions, I'm saying that they are basically aroused or stimulated by an external stimuli, right? Feelings, on the other hand, are stimulated by an internal stimuli.
Oh.
Now, let me
Yeah.
explain that well. So, I like the example that you've given. You meet somebody and you have these feelings for them. You
Yeah.
don't say, I have these emotions for them.
Yeah, that's true.
You say, I have these feelings for them, because it is
butterflies in my tummy.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it is something that is being stimulated by your inward, perceptions and your ideas,
About
and then they are now being formulated and expressed into this feeling.
Yeah.
So one thing that we should understand is that much of our feelings and emotions, I'll explain that, but much of our feelings are as a result of our interpretation, our thoughts, and our emotions. Yeah, that is what inform our feelings, our interpretation of the situation and the emotion. Now, the emotion, like I said, stimulated by an external.
Yeah.
Yes. So for the emotions, on the other hand, it is basically what we have either seen, what we have felt. It is always something that is coming from the outside.
Right.
So our thoughts are very much they play a big role when it comes to how we feel. They play a big role when it comes to just the emotions that we get to have. But the difference there is just in the very fact that what stimulates the other is different.
Right.
But when you have emotions, those emotions are likely to communicate to
they can speak to the
they
feelings.
can speak to the feelings, and then now you are either going to act on the feelings or not. So our actions are basically triggered by the feelings that we have.
Doc, are you able to give me an example of what you've just explained?
Okay.
Yeah, where there's like external stimuli. I don't know if it's external stimuli, then there's emotions, and then there's feelings that come up, and then someone acts on that.
So a good example I can give is, well, firstly, let me talk about love, right? There's a quote I like by Dr. Stephen Covey, the author of The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People.
Yeah.
So he says that love is a verb.
Yeah.
Love, the feeling, is a product or a fruit of love, the verb.
Right, that's interesting.
So there he's distinguishing the fact that love is a verb. It is something you do, right?
For those, to give birth to those.
Yeah, so when you act on that decision, the very fact that you love this person or you love this thing, when you act on that, what you get to feel
is a byproduct.
It's a byproduct.
Is that true though? I don't know. Anyway, it's a whole conversation.
So he says what you get to feel.
Yeah.
So he's now calling that as love the feeling.
And love the verb.
And love the verb, right?
So for those that have forgotten, a verb is an action word. It's not a noun, which is the naming word. It's an action word. So he's basically saying, if I keep doing things, the love can follow.
Yes.
And I think there's that analogy in the book, How to Win and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. Towards the end, there's something like that where two people start to live together and there's no feelings, and then they just start to live together on contract. And eventually, love the feeling follows. I think that's interesting. I like that. Now that we've gotten through the love being the feelings and the verb, I was wanting to talk about the different types of emotions.
Okay.
Right? Like we have talked about, love is a more welcome emotion.
Yeah.
We like that feeling, butterflies in my tummy.
Yeah.
Now, what about emotions or feelings like sadness, like grief?
Yeah.
What are the different types of feelings? I've heard people talk about negative and positive, so I just thought we could dive a little into that conversation.
Okay. So I'd like to get into that directly, but I'd want to borrow a principle from stress. Oftentimes when we talk about stress, we always have this connotation of this notion that stress is a negative thing.
Yeah.
Right? We think of it as a negative thing.
Yeah.
But stress in itself is not negative or positive.
Yeah.
Stress in itself is just the body's normal reaction to an imbalance in the homeostasis or the internal environment. So
come back to life.
So
homeostasis, no.
So we have negative stress and positive stress.
Okay.
So negative stress is what we call distress. So you say I'm distressed.
That's positive.
No, that's negative. Yes.
Okay.
So when you say I'm distressed, that's now the stress affecting you in a negative way.
Yeah.
And there's also positive stress. For example, when a lady is surprised with an engagement party.
Okay, that's good stress. Yeah.
That's good stress.
It's welcome stress.
It's a surprise. shocking, but
it's beautiful.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
So that's stress, but positive stress.
Yeah.
So we call that eustress.
Eustress.
Yes.
U, just the letter U, or Y or U?
E, U, and stress.
Or EU stress.
Yes,
Eustress.
eustress. So we call that positive stress as eustress. So it's the kind of stress you get to feel when you are in this bubble of excitement.
Yeah.
At times, not really in that fashion of example that I've given,
Yeah.
but let's say you've gone to the theme park, you're on a roller coaster,
Yeah.
and
The adrenaline.
the adrenaline
Yeah.
thrill,
Yeah.
you know? So that is positive.
That's also eustress.
That's also eustress, right?
Okay.
So now with this understanding, let's bring it back to emotions.
Yeah. Yeah.
So for emotions as well,
Yeah.
we have a negative, we usually say, well, negative emotions and positive emotions. So for negative emotions, we have things like shame, guilt, times disgust, and anger.
Anger is a big one.
Anger is a big one.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we have all these negative
Negative.
emotions, yes. And we also have positive emotions, things to do with happiness,
Yes,
you know,
excitement,
excitement, joy, love, all these things that just make us feel alive,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But what we forget is that it's somehow close to what I've explained about stress.
Yeah.
Only that we express our reaction in a negative way
When we feel
when we
emotions.
feel those emotions that have perhaps a negative interpretation or negative situation attached to them, we get to react or respond with a negative attitude. And so because of that, we call them negative emotions.
In the expression.
In
of
the
them.
expression of them. Then for the positive ones, because of the joy that is attached to them, we express them in a more positive way. And so we end up saying positive emotions, right?
Negative emotions.
Yes. So I think that is
That's the distinction.
what I
I
would
like
say
that.
there.
So therefore, now that we have learned that we're dealing with the feeling or the emotion or the trigger in and of itself is not bad.
Yes.
So let me have you on record because I'm doing the lawyer thing. You're saying in the literal sense of the word, there is no such thing as a negative emotion in the context that when I feel anger, it's not a bad thing for me to feel anger.
Yes, I like that you have even phrased it that way.
Yes, it's an indicator because you say our emotions, our feelings,
signaling
they're signaling what's going on
inside.
on the inside.
Yes.
So the negativity comes in the expression of those emotions.
Yes. So now right there, scientifically, emotions last for 90 seconds.
Okay. Is that true though?
Yeah.
So how do we suffer from breakups? Let's discuss that.
Focus. We focus. We believe the emotion.
Yeah.
We
dwell on
we
it.
hold onto it. We dwell on it. And because of that, it is prolonged. It lives with us. So scientifically, emotions are only supposed to last for 90 seconds. They are transient.
A minute and 30 seconds.
Yes, they are transient.
Okay.
They just
It's like a wave.
pass. It's just a wave. They're just passing through. So that passing through is the emotion signaling to us that this is what is happening. Now, because you've experienced loss, now because we believe in these emotions, oftentimes we find even an attachment, identity in these emotions that were only purposed to pass. But at times we have what we call suppression. We suppress a lot of emotions.
Okay.
Yeah, so because we suppress these emotions, we feel as though we have dealt with them by suppressing them. But what we are basically doing is we are denying the emotions to play their role or their purpose, their function. Hence the quote by Sigmund Freud that unexpressed emotions
come up,
never die. They are buried alive and later on show up in uglier ways.
Okay. Let's say I have lost a loved one.
Yeah.
And I've been told this person has just died.
Yeah.
So this wave of emotion comes over me.
Yes.
I'm feeling grief and I'm feeling sadness at the loss that I have experienced.
Yes.
So even if an emotion comes for 1 like I'm trying to understand the mechanisms,
Yeah.
I don't know, the mechanics of it.
Yeah.
Does that mean the emotion can come and go and come and go, and each time it comes and goes, I have to deal with it when it comes? And then in that situation, what does suppress look like? What does it look like to suppress, for instance, in a situation of grief or a breakup? I find out my husband has cheated on me, God forbid, fire.
What happened?
And then, you know, I feel the sadness, right? Do I have to deal with it in the first 90 seconds? I feel it.
Okay, so the idea behind the emotions, 90 seconds is just, I would call it as a fact. They are only supposed to last for that long. By human nature,
like with no matter what, we're going to hold on. Like when it comes, I'll hold on to it.
Yes, we're going to hold on to it. But then, by feeling our emotions, what we basically have to do is to know that there is nothing wrong with getting to sit in the negative emotion.
It's in the expression of it. It's not the feeling of it.
Yes.
So it's not in the holding on to it. That's the problem. It's okay, it's here and you're holding on to it.
Yes.
How do you express it?
Yes. So there's nothing wrong with you getting to feel it, because it has come to signal this is what is happening inside of you.
You don't feel okay.
You don't feel okay. What you just went through is a loss, and you feel the grief. So you have to feel that grief without trying to suppress it. Allow it to play its part. Because remember, the emotion is coming to signal how you are feeling. But it is not only saying, Wope, this is how you're feeling. No. It is also going to alter or influence your perception of a particular thing.
Absolutely.
And that needs to happen.
Yeah.
So there are things that we'll never learn because we don't get to feel the emotions. There are things that men at times never get to understand because they don't feel their emotions. This is why some of the men, sorry men, but it's true,
facts,
we are emotionally immature.
Glad it came from you.
Because we don't have a relation with our emotions. We don't know how to live when we feel a particular way. We don't know what a certain emotion means. And we don't know how to continue to act when we feel something. And so because we suppress, we deny, we avoid, when we finally now get to feel that foreign emotion, we act out. You know, we get into our cave or anger outbursts. You know, we just say something we don't even mean in that moment. You know, we try to bring up an issue. You know, at times we say, "Man, I'm not against men.
We love you.
we love you.
Love.
I'm a man. I love you guys." So I'm still part of the pack. Huh?
You'll be just from the men's conference.
So at times we say, well, women are record keepers. You know, they keep things and then they will react at a later time. Men do that the most. Because there are times that
just because you're not pointing back to it
doesn't mean you're acting from that place.
Thank you.
You know, it doesn't mean you're not acting from that place. There are times that a decision will be made not because of the actual moment, but it's because you have been reminded of something you didn't deal with. And so you act in that moment, and the people are surprised. Why has he made this decision now?
What's going on?
Perhaps he's changed. No, he's only acting on what he didn't act and he kept it. But now it's like, well, I'll show them.
So what does it look like to work through the emotion? Let's say it's a husband who's been cheated on by the wife, and then he chooses to suppress that emotion. What does that look like?
So firstly, we need to understand that some of these things are also influenced by different factors. At times it's just the society, the expectations, family as well. And so there are all these things that at times back up you know, a person's actions or a person's attitude in that moment. And when they get to do them, we don't get to realize it because we've accepted that
as,
this is
as a norm.
It's a norm.
Let me give you an example. So in society, if a woman cheats on the man, it's a given that he shouldn't stay with her. So let's say he doesn't want to leave and he wants to work it out with his wife.
Yes,
right?
Yeah.
But what does suppression look like in a situation like that, where we have a cultural norm like that?
Yeah. So one of the ways that men suppress is to avoid conversation.
Yeah.
So they will avoid the conversation because in having the conversation, you express your feelings.
Yeah. What if I break down and cry?
Exactly. Yeah. So they'll firstly avoid the conversation and try to man up or try to say, well, they understand, you know, but then there's no understanding without the actual communication. You have to speak up and hear, you know, hear yourself talk. At times we don't realize what we are having inside till we speak.
Yeah, that's true. Until you name it. I'm always saying, like, give it a narrative, name it.
Because a narrative and naming,
then you can work through it.
Yes.
Yeah.
So how has that affected you?
Yeah.
So the first thing is that they'll avoid
the conversation,
and they will take up either a task or responsibility or anything, something to keep them busy. In doing that, they are basically distracting themselves.
Distraction.
Yeah. They're distracting themselves and picking up something that will occupy them.
Yeah.
And oftentimes they try to be nice. You know, they're trying to be nice. Behind that is a fear.
I have a word for that.
Yeah, let me hear it.
I forget the word. Appeasing.
Oh, yes.
I think there's an appeasing. Like,
I like it.
Yes,
I like
we're distracting, appeasing, avoiding the conversation.
True.
Yeah, we're like, okay, I'm really okay here. Take this.
Yeah, but in the actual sense, there's fear and pain behind that needs to be addressed, but isn't being addressed.
Okay. I hear you. That's very clear, actually. So let's get a little bit into, without leaving it hanging, how do people manage, I think, let's start with negative emotions, because there's things like anger. How do people express anger right? How do people express grief in a not even right, because some things like even anger, I don't know if there's like a right way. But what is a healthy way to express anger? I like that. What is a healthy way for me to deal with grief? Because there's sometimes where grief takes you into a really dark place where you can't come out. So how do we manage negative emotions?
Great. So what I would like to explain firstly before I give out everything is that we are not our thoughts.
The mountain is you says that. Have you gotten there yet?
I haven't gotten there yet.
Okay, I won't spoil it. It just says, you know what, emotions are not a good indicator of reality. Anyway, you'll get there, but I won't spoil it for you. You get there.
I'll get there. So we are not our thoughts. That's one thing we really need to understand.
That's true.
When I got to just understand that and accept, because understanding and accepting are two different things. I got to accept that, and I realize, okay, because I think or conclude this,
it does not mean,
doesn't indicate it is the reality.
That's true.
Right? So that's what we need to understand first. A normal human being gets to have about 60,000 thoughts in a day. 80% of these thoughts are negative. And we call them automatic negative thoughts. Like ants. So they're just ants in our head. The automatic negative thoughts.
I like that.
So when you understand that you are not your thoughts, it helps you to analyze, to like get behind and see, okay. This is wrong.
That's not true.
This is just an intrusive thought. This is a pervasive thought. This is a thought that is not speaking of who I am or what I'm capable of doing and all that. And so when you understand that, you now need to realize that there are times that we get to self-sabotage ourselves based on these very thoughts that we get to think of. Because the thought that we have will influence our emotion will influence our feelings, our feelings will influence our actions. You know, so because of that,
in that process, you've built a whole belief system. And as long as you believe something, it's rooted in your hearts.
Yeah.
to take deliverance.
It would
Your own self-deliverance.
definitely.
Once it's taken root, it's taken root.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So now these thoughts are influenced by our core beliefs,
Yeah.
our past experiences,
that's so
you know, the way we interpret things is based on what we call cognitive schema, which is basically our framework of
That's
interpretation.
better.
Our framework of interpretation
Yeah.
of things that we get to go through.
Yeah.
So, for example, if a dog has chased you before, the next time you see one, you have it behind your
Let's
mind that
chase
it's
you.
capable.
Chasing
So you
you.
be more mindful,
Yeah.
right? I have
Yeah.
this mark here.
Yeah, I see that.
Yes, it was a burn I got when I was quite young. I should have been 6 or so.
But it's there.
It's there.
Yeah.
So this pen was actually on the plate cooker.
Yeah.
So I don't know what I was doing. I was, you know,
Yeah, experimenting.
experimenting.
There,
Then-
see your life.
then it has left me the mark.
Yeah.
So every time I'm near a cooker, a stove,
You know.
I know
Yeah.
I
That is
would be
capable.
I would be doing something else, but whenever I get close, it's within me.
Yeah.
It's within me that it's likely
It
to
will leave you a scar.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So the main question now is, what are some of our relations with these emotions?
Sorry, Doc.
Yes.
Before we go to the relations with emotions,
Yeah.
I've done a bit of reading and
Sure.
I've been finding that the reason why we have like the majority of our 60,000 thoughts as negative,
Yeah.
and I'd like you to correct this if it's wrong.
Sure.
There's a lot of scientific research that says, I'm inclined to believe it in a sense. Even Adam and Eve were created in the wild. They didn't
Yeah.
have, houses like we do.
Yeah.
They slept in, I don't know if it's in trees or besides what, I don't know.
Yeah.
But they were created in the wild.
Yeah.
So they say that our brain is wired in such a way that we want to self-protect.
Oh yeah.
So sometimes we self-sabotage because our brain is trying to protect us from
Protect us.
discomfort,
Yes.
and we're hardwired
Yes.
to protect
To
ourselves.
protect
And
ourselves.
I've always wanted to ask you that, and then I always forget.
Forget,
And
okay.
now I've remembered when you're saying we always self-sabotage and we have these negative
Yeah.
thoughts throughout the day.
Yeah.
Is that it? Is because we're wired that way and we have to
Yes,
force
we
ourselves?
have to protect. Yes. So
Yeah.
the brain in itself
Yeah.
will protect you
Yeah.
from anything. It's built in
Yeah.
to protect you,
Protect
and
you.
part of
Yeah.
this protective mechanism, if
Yeah.
I'm to call it, is the stress response as well.
Yes.
So the stress response will either have you fight back or flee.
Yes.
But not only that, at times, if these two won't work, you freeze.
Yeah. That's
This
true.
is why most of the explanation behind others that have gone through sexual trauma,
Yeah,
this
they
is people,
just become
people that have been
silent.
molested and all that.
Yeah.
They couldn't flee, they couldn't fight, they froze.
Maya Angelou, you remember there was a whole stretch of time she couldn't
Yes.
speak. Literally, she became
Yes.
a mute.
So the stress response was active on the freeze part,
Right.
not the fight, no flight. But then she was in that freeze state for the longest of time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's also something close to what Joyce Meyer also went
She
through.
also experienced
Yes.
that. Yeah.
Yes.
Maya talked about that when she was alive. May her soul rest in. Okay.
Yeah. Yes.
I'll leave it now to the relation.
Yeah, so
side.
what's your relation with these emotions? What's your relation with anger? Where does it come from? My fear of the plate burning me
Yeah.
is because of this mark,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
I have it literally reminds
Because
me
now
that
you have evidence.
I have
You can't tell me what.
I have
Yeah.
evidence. Yeah. So now your relation with these emotions will now help you on how to manage, right?
Yeah.
You then know that, okay, I have this anger issue because of
The experience.
the experience I had, or I have this anger issue because it is somehow a coping mechanism to something I'm ashamed of. And oftentimes people don't realize that when you're ashamed about something,
Yeah.
expression is anger. Most guys don't realize that.
Really?
Yes.
If I'm ashamed of something, okay, give me an
Yeah,
example.
let me give you an example. So there was a case I actually had where this guy was battling with anger issues.
Yeah.
When we got to probe further,
Where you go down.
yeah, we realized that he actually has a mother who's been incarcerated. And because of that, shame, he doesn't know how to live with those emotions.
Right.
So we probed further. We found that he actually has a mother that has been incarcerated. You know, she's been in prison, and the shame of that. But behind that as well is the reason why she went.
Yeah.
And the very fact that he's never had a relation with her.
Oh, there's also abandonment there.
Exactly. So there's that abandonment, and there's the shame of the reality.
Yeah.
And he doesn't know how to deal with the emotions of all that reality.
Yeah.
So what other way to express that than anger?
Yeah. That's an easy outlet.
Yeah, and that is how most people, you know, deal with some of these things that they literally don't know how to express. So how we deal with these emotions really have to do with us getting to have that self-awareness. So I was explaining all these things for us to know that there's need for us to be aware.
You have self-awareness.
Self-aware.
Yeah.
Where is this coming from? How am I dealing with it? Do I have history with this kind of an emotion? How have I handled it in the past? And then especially how you've handled it in the past. Because if you answer how you've handled it in the past, it will now give you a picture of the patterns you've been having.
Yeah.
Because most people say, that's just how I am.
Yeah. Funny you should say that, because I posted that this morning. I was like, we need to get into the habit where people say, to normalize saying, you know, I can work on this, rather than say, this is just who I am.
Yes.
Yeah.
Most people say, no, that's just how I am.
But
No. It's nature. Life has taught you to nature that. You know. So when we get to see the patterns we've had, then we'll know that, oh, okay, so I'm not really an introvert.
Yeah.
It's because I had to cope with the adversity of my childhood. That is why I would rather, you know, draw back.
Yeah,
you know?
In the personal growth club, I try to encourage people to do the personality tests regularly. Because life is always happening. And today you're thinking, oh, I'm introverted and I don't like to go out. Then next time you're like, oh no, but I like to go out. So it's like,
true.
When you keep doing keep doing the test, you become clearer about what are the things that always come out the same thing, and what are the elements that are changing, and then you get clearer on who you are, and that's why I encourage that test a lot. I'm like, just do it again after a month, do it again. Let's see where you're at, and then observe what's changing.
That's true. So really, self-awareness is big. It's so much a huge topic that at times
we'll come back with that.
We
should do a whole season on self-awareness.
True. It's so much a huge topic that at times you fall in love with somebody's mask.
Yeah, that's so true.
And then when you finally get to be together, like I always say when I get an opportunity, your childhood, if you don't address your childhood trauma, your relationships will address it. So you fall in love with the mask, you know, and finally the onions,
the layers start to peel off. And now someone's eyes start getting hurt.
You're like, I didn't
know. And it's so true. It's so true. And I just think it's anyway, topic for another day. And then managing positive emotions. Do you feel like we should just welcome positive emotions when they positive emotions, should we just welcome them? Or there's a way that we should manage those out as well?
Okay, so at times positive emotions have like led people into shock.
That's so true. That's so true.
Others have had high blood pressure. You know, so there are these, I would say, negative effects. But then how do we handle positive emotions? We need to be in the moment. Firstly,
be
present. Be present and just try to express yourself as you are. You know, try to express yourself. Be mindful as well, because at times we get so lost in the emotions that our emotions now drive us. But we need to be mindful. For example, if you get a promotion. Okay, get a promotion, you are all excited. Yeah, it's good, you deserve it. But be mindful, be present, and bring in gratitude. There's one thing that gratitude literally does. There's one thing that gratitude literally does. It helps you to acknowledge the actual thing that you are happy about.
Again, it comes back to awareness, because that's what gratitude does. It makes you aware.
It makes you aware.
Yeah.
So in that moment, you would be more careful. I think the Bible, New King James, uses the word circumspect. You know, in Ephesians 5, when it says, we should be careful in these present times. It says that we should be circumspect, meaning that we should be careful to know what we're feeling in that moment. So we should be careful to know that, this is a promotion, it's a good thing, appreciate it. Especially when you're grateful, be able to appreciate as well, because there are some things that people do in the moment that leave out the actual important things.
That's true.
So there are people, they would receive maybe an increment, in their salary, and know that because they are happy, they just go out and blow the money, then come back and say,
it meant nothing.
How much was that? But then when you're grateful and mindful, you will be able to now even have clarity in the moment. You'll be able to know how to manage what has come. So
it doesn't come from a place of pride. You're managing another emotion.
I like
now.
that.
You're not doing it from a place of pride, but of gratitude.
Gratitude,
and
exactly.
You can be excited, but don't go drive, till you crush yourself. That's I hear you.
So it just makes us present in the moment.
We've talked about a lot of things. Is there something that you feel like is important to this conversation that you'd like to add before we close it?
Okay, so emotions don't define us.
Yeah, it's a good one.
Emotions don't define us, really, because we often find ourselves struggling with feeling our emotions. We shouldn't be in a place of discomfort because we feel anger. We shouldn't think it is a sin
to feel anger,
to feel some of these emotions. They are basically communicating, and we shouldn't get identity from the emotions. We shouldn't get a label from the emotions. We should allow ourselves to feel these emotions,
and choose what you want.
Then the other thing I think is that most of our emotions are driven by our core belief. Most of our emotions are really driven by our core belief. And so it's important that we also get to question, what is it that I believe about this emotion? What do I believe about anger? What do I believe about shame? Because there's always something that you had experienced or witnessed.
That makes it so prominent.
Yes, or something that you just witnessed. And because of that, it has informed what you literally perceive every time you get to see, think, or feel that emotion. And because of that, it will keep you hostage. It will keep you a prisoner, and you will be a prisoner of your own emotions.
That's so true. That's so true.
So emotions should not drive our lives.
They are not a reflection
They are not a reflection of reality.
They are
I love
an
that.
indicator of what's going on the inside.
On the inside.
And how to express them in a healthy manner lies in your hands.
Absolutely. I like that.
Me too.
Like that.
Love that. Thanks a lot. We're back. Thanks a lot. So until the next one, this has been an episode of Mindful Mondays with Dr. Clinton Kadochi. Till the next one, we're out. Bye.
Bye-bye.